Hi folks, with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the extent to which government programs in the West, in the white West, or the once white West, how they're directed against and very much against white people, white society, white culture, and so on. Some examples of this. I mean, it's not just that it happens, it's the amount of money that's thrown at hating white people by white governments, by taxpayer money they've taken from white people to hate white people. That's the I don't know if in human history any government's ever done this, but they're sure as hell doing it now to their own people. It's a cultural invasion from within instead of soldiers from some weird foreign nation coming in and shooting everyone and that sort of stuff. It's an invasion from within, an ideological invasion from within that no one agreed to or voted for. But let's have a look at a few of the things. I saw a bunch of adverts back to back. I was watching an online or part of an online video. It was like a synopsis of a movie, but here's an advert here from one of Australia's biggest financial firms, and the advert is all black lesbians. Now, there's not many black people in Australia, so the amount of black lesbians in the country would be a handful. And black as in African black, not local Aboriginal black. So they're not appealing to a market there. There's just no market for people there. And I can't imagine they're well-to-do, the ones that are. But then there's a very Australian brand of food. And this features an all-black family, which appear to be unrelated, so suggesting, I don't know, adoption or something, or they just wanted all black people in the thing. Then there's a property development come real estate advert with mixed race gay couple. I mean, I could go on here, but this is the sort of stuff we're fed. You can often see many adverts in a row across an entire program. And I was looking at a documentary a few nights ago, went for like an hour and 10 minutes, and it had a number of breaks in it with adverts, and this is online, and I didn't see not a single white person. Now, there's a lot of screaming and crying around the West with government-funded organisations and groups saying, well, there are just too many white people in England, for example. There's just too many white people. It's just too white. And I went into a national park in England, and it was just way too white. Too many white people. And you know what too many white people means? It means too many fascists, and it means too many Nazis, and it means those white people are all Hitler. Now, do these same people go to, I don't know, China and say there are too many Chinese people? Do they go to Morocco and say there's too many Moroccans? Do they go to Greece and say there's too many Greeks? Do they and so on? And do they do that? No. This sort of thing's only reserved for white countries, and they're paying other white people to do it. And pretty much every organ of government and public service has turned against white people and has really declared they're the enemy. Straight white males are the enemy. They are all Hitler and have to be got rid of. But here's just a few things that they're doing. Now, there's a new degree that's been put together in a British university where it's a degree for climate change disruption, they're calling it. So that they claim to be professionally training activists and disruptors and protesters and so on to go out and do the protesting and so on in the future and have like an official status. Now they're hoping that these people will actually be hired into the public service and hired by the NGOs as professional agitators and stirrers and so on. But if you look at the course material, the climate change gets mentioned and so on, but it's really about hating white society, hating capitalism as practiced by the middle class. The rich elites are exempt, but the capitalist middle class, people that believe in merit and working hard and being careful with your money and these sorts of things, it opposes in effect straight white males, the entire Western culture and Western history, white history, all has to be erased. So it's not a climate change degree. It's a professional course on, much like gender studies is, professional course on how to hate white society, white history, white culture, particularly straight white males, and again, capitalism as practiced by the middle class, or once practiced by the middle class. So it's for that. Now the government is, no one fails. It's got a very low entry bar to get into it, and the government with white taxpayer dollars is subsidising it. I mean, who asked for that? Who agreed to it? Who approved it? But not one politician, not one radio, not one media personality that I can find is pushing back against this. This just being allowed to go through, this just being waved through, a bit like an illegal immigrant falsely claiming refugee status, just being waved through without question. Now, something that destructive that plans and intends, I mean, they're right up front saying how much they want to destroy Western white society and culture and history, and no one's pushing back, no one's querying it, no politicians getting up saying, well, that university isn't going to get another penny of government funding if it's going to take such an anti-British and anti-white attitude or position. If they want to fund it privately, then that's up to them, and then people can choose to attend those courses, and they would be expensive. But instead, no, there's taxpayer dollars being shoveled at it, let alone thrown at it, and this is a deliberate, willful, direct act to again destroy white society. Now, this isn't confined. I think that was in Wales or southern England. I think that one, but the climate change one. But here's now, and this is a story I got off Breitbart News, where the US State Department is offering up to $750,000 in grants to any radical activist group for the sole purpose of spreading social division against white people, especially straight white males. Now, it's packaged up as saying, well, it's money to protect minority groups from straight white males. But minority groups aren't under threat from straight white males. It's quite the other way around. So up to $750,000 being given to, and you can imagine the line, we don't have to imagine it, the lineup, the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa, all the Western hating George Soros type groups, all that sort of stuff. The money is going to be handed out to them. All you have to do is say you're going to hate white people and be very public about it. Bingo, the money is yours. And it's hard to believe that's even happening. Nah, that can't be happening. But according to Breitbart, it is. And so those are some of the things that and there are many others that. I recently saw a segment. I think it was on Tucker Carlson, but I'd seen mention of it somewhere else, somewhere online, where various organisations that supply goods and services to disadvantaged groups are trying to encourage the government to pay more and more money to them so they can give more and more to these supposedly disadvantaged groups that are determined through ideology alone, not through actual disadvantage. So they're trying to effectively get government subsidy in the same way that the government bought the remedy for the so-called CUF, the one that didn't work, and you know that the whole vaccine rollout, you know, given in various stages, but it's that same sort of thing where these organisations are going to the government and saying, well, why don't you pay for all this so we can just take the taxpayers' money? Therefore, we don't have to compete. We don't have to spend the money on getting out there and marketing our product and so on. That we can just take straight taxpayer, you know, funds, stick it in our pockets, and we're done. And they consider that to be, you know, what a great business model. We don't do anything. We just sponge off the taxpayers' trough. And I agree that you know that sort of as a business model, you can get away with it. I mean, I suppose any business would consider that worth a try if they thought it was going to fall neatly into place, and you're employing lots of lobbyists and so on. But what was interesting was the tactics for you know, overcoming objection. If the government sort of dragged their feet or didn't want to or wasn't keen on it, they would simply go around to all the black activist organisations, for example, all the black activist organisations or, you know, transgender and lesbian groups, and give them money directly to complain that the government was being racist and bigoted and fascist and Nazi and Hitler and all that sort of stuff. So the government would cave, or any opposition would cave. You know, nobody wants to be called a racist, bigot, fascist, Nazi. So that everyone caves and they can get us. But all this is a planned campaign to overcome any objections. Anyone objects, call them a fucking Nazi. And it seems to work, or works well enough, so that people, these companies, can get away with, you know, just taking vast chunks and wads of taxpayer money, and with an attitude by the politicians, who are owned by the globalists anyway, who say, well, who cares? And the idea of, you know, wasting the taxpayers' money or giving the taxpayer value for money, that's a long way in the rearview mirror now. So these things go, but again, they're representations of how much white society and white culture and responsible government and democratic government have been completely destroyed. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.